As promised, joining me now is House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. Very few people have done more to fight to protect health care coverage for Americans than you. I watched you do it up close through 2 administrations. But I just want to start, I just gave a summary, a pretty comprehensive summary of all of the damaging things in this bill. But you've read the fine print of it. What did I miss?
Well, we haven't seen the fine print of it
Yes, true.
yet.
That's fair, but you studied it. Yes.
It hasn't come out of the Rules Committee yet, but it started at 1 a.m. last night. They didn't want the public to see really what was in the bill because it's very damaging to families across our country. What's curious to me is because my whole mission in politics is about the children, for the children. I went from housewife to House Speaker, or from the kitchen to the Congress, for the children, because 1 in 5 children in America was living in poverty and going to sleep hungry at night. Now this bill comes along and makes matters worse. It is, as you said in your presentation, 10% at the bottom will be poor. Those 10% at the top will be richer. It's a Republican Robin Hood, reverse Robin Hood. Take from those where we should be helping people and give it to those who do not need help. It's really has no values based. It's not what our country is about, and it's damaging to families and children.
We've been trying, as a lot of people I work with have been trying to inform people about Medicaid work requirements and how horrible and draconian those are. One of the pieces I think hasn't been talked about enough is the fact that this doesn't include an extension of the premium tax credits that were passed in 2021, extended in 2022. You have done so much over so many years to fight for the protection of the ACA. Do you feel like this is an effort to dismantle it?
Yes. Well, actually, we had amendments in the course of the day to extend those subsidies so that more people can continue to have health care or join. I had an amendment with Jimmy Gomez of California where if you didn't want to do that, at least do it for pregnant women and small children and the rest. They don't want to do any of it. But the thing,
Republicans don't want to do that, to be clear.
Republicans don't want to be doing it. It has no sensitivity of what it is to be a family and how complicated it is. Jim McGovern, our ranking member in Rules, has said it's complicated, families, all the things that happen. But here's the thing. When you had this presentation about a worker in Georgia and how he
experienced it,
and lost the health care. I want to talk about what's in this bill. If a woman works and she wants Medicaid, she can have it until her child is 7 years old. When a child is 7 years old, she must go to work. And that we have stories from moms who say, my child got sick, I had to go to work, so what could I do? I can't afford child care. If I miss work, I lose that pay. If I miss work too many times, I lose that job. So I put my child on the bus, sick. And it's really sinful, almost. So we have Medicaid, where they're taking over $700 billion, $300 billion from SNAP. So $1 trillion as an assault on America's working families, $1 trillion. And then the Congressional Budget Office came out today and said $500 billion in Medicare, So this means people will lose their coverage. 18 million children may lose school lunch programs, Meals on Wheels, food banks, all the rest. Why? Why is that? To give tax breaks to the highest end? When we had in 2017, when the President Trump had the majority, he had the big tax bill. They gave 83% of the benefits to the top 1%. 83% of the benefits of the top 1%, adding $2 trillion to the national debt. Here he is again to extend those, but further, adding over $4 trillion to the national debt. all their talk about fiscal responsibility. So in any event, it adds to the national debt. It's problematic in terms of Medicaid. People think of it as a benefit for poor children. That would be justification enough. However, it also is a middle-class benefit. If middle-income families that have a senior who needs long-term care, much of that is covered by Medicaid. Veterans who are with disabilities, or people with disabilities who aren't veterans, need Medicaid, and yet
here we are. Let me ask you, I mean, I remember watching you work in lockstep with President Obama to get the ACA passed, with President Biden to extend tax credits to protect the ACA. The relationship between Trump and Mike Johnson does not seem like a normal relationship between a speaker and a president. I mean, he doesn't seem to know if he has the votes, but what do you make of his management of this?
Well, what I'm concerned about is the integrity of the legislative branch. Article 1, the legislative branch. The Republicans in Congress have surrendered their leverage, their responsibility to have. That's where legislation starts, that for spending and for investments, for appropriations and the rest. But they've surrendered all of that to President Bush. And they don't seem to have one qualm about the fact that they take an oath to the Constitution, and they should. The brilliance, the genius of the Constitution is the separation of power, a separation of powers, and they have surrendered that to Trump.
So Mike Johnson is sort of surrendering in many ways.
But he didn't even put up a fight. It wasn't even a surrender. It wasn't a fight. But to take it back to, like, Martin Luther King, he said, of all of the inequalities of health care is the most inhuman. He said inhuman because people could die. And that has been our theme. We have built, what are we doing? We are building a grassroots operation around the country, which we have had. That's how we won in 2018. We had a grassroots operation when then President Trump then said, Obamacare sucks, to use his
to quote
lovely language, to quote the president. So, Obamacare sucks. And we said, well, no, it doesn't suck. It cures. But we had events, 10,000 events around the country where people told their story. My baby was born with a heart condition. My wife has breast cancer. My mom, it's this or that. So when people told their stories, it wasn't about provisions of the bill or what it was about their personal stories. And we won that election. We won 40 seats, 31 of them in Trump districts, because people knew. That's what we're doing now, is making sure people know what is in that legislation, making sure the Republicans know that their constituents know what they're voting for.
I think the worst thing, of course, that could happen is for this to pass and the impact. But if it passes, it feels like it is something that Democrats should be running on next year. I think that's what I'm hearing.
We run on health care. When we won in 2018, people said to me, weren't you lucky that health care became the issue in the campaign? I said, no, we weren't lucky. We made our own luck, 10,000 events. But since the election, our grassroots people have been out there making calls into Republic. Nothing more eloquent to a member of Congress than the voice of his or her own constituents. So these have to be people who live in their districts calling them. And that's the operation that is out there. And people are just at it. They just know that Lincoln said public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish anything. Without it, practically nothing. But people have to know if sentiment is going to prevail.
Spoken by someone who knows what it's like to win races and also to count votes. Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, thank you so much for joining me.
My
really
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, we're going to take a quick break. But we thought the Oval Office meltdown with the president of Ukraine would never be topped. But then Donald Trump's truly insane ambush of South Africa's president today certainly gave it a bit of a run for its money. I'm going to tell you all about it, talk more about the history here after a quick break.